All right, let's welcome in Tom Murphy into the program this morning, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Now, Tom, we've joked a little bit this morning talking about this Georgia-Missouri matchup tonight, and I think a lot of the fans and the listeners listening to us are thinking that Missouri's just going to go clean away, but Georgia's beaten them a couple times this year. How do you see this game shaking out tonight between the Bulldogs and between the Tigers?
If you go with chalk, Missouri's a better team. I just think they're more veteran, just a stronger defensive team. But I can't remember who the Razorbacks were playing that night, but it was the same night of the last Missouri-Georgia game. It was in Athens. And I thought, I thought Missouri would win that one. And they got out to a big lead in the second half, and then suddenly they couldn't score. And Georgia can be an explosive team. Mm-hmm. And came back and ended up winning the game by, I think, 10. So, I'm a fan of Severe Wheeler, a smaller guy who somehow manages to driving against anybody, even guys his own height and similar speed. And he's not the thinnest of guys either.
He's a little thick.
I like the way he can get to the hole, and he has that kind of underhand scoop thing off the backboard and usually gets the shot off. And they're a plucky team. Tom Crean has improved the recruiting at Georgia, and they've won some pretty big games this year. So I wouldn't put it past them to win again, but I still think Missouri is going to find a way. They have not finished very well, and I know they're still, quote, in the NCAA field, but you don't want to lose your first game to Georgia tonight. So I think they'll find a way, and when they're a motivated team, I think Missouri is one of the toughest outs in the entire SEC.
So, Tom, on that note, and we've yet to really hit on this conversation. I was tabling it for tomorrow, but since you're with us today, I'd like to ask you, with Jalen Williams seemingly be out, we won't officially know until tomorrow night, but that's the word on the streets. What should the expectations be with this Arkansas basketball team in Nashville? What are your expectations for this team in Nashville?
Well, just be competitive. Get the guys on your bench some work. Arkansas, if they lose to the Missouri-Georgia winner, they might fall one line to a 4 on these projections. I think if they win that game, they can stay right there on the 3 line. So, you don't want to lose that. You just want to get a nice run out of it, like thinking that, they make a run to the championship game and win it. I don't know if they need that, but I also think that with their depth, even without Jalen Williams, I think their depth is very conducive to being able to win on, multiple days and win 3 games in a row. In fact, I think the odds for Arkansas to win the tournament in Vegas are not far off what Alabama's are, somewhere around 5-1. And y'all might have the odds in front of you, but I saw Alabama's at maybe like 11-4 or something like that, and Arkansas is about 5-1. Just because they have the depth, just because if Jalen Tate has an off night, then Devo Davis or somebody or Desi is going to have a big night, and then you got the constant and Moses Moody. So, I just want to see them fight. And one thing I want to see them do, I want to see their offensive rebounds tick up. In the last game, in the A&M game, it seemed like there was a whole lot of 1-and-outs, and that when the shot was going up, I didn't see anybody crashing into the lane. Justin Smith did some, but I want to see more offensive rebounding.
Tom, in your mind, who are the bubble teams that have to win a game or two this week? You mentioned Missouri, and I think they'd like to win a couple of games to feel better about Selection Sunday. I think we all probably feel good about the first 4 seeds that have the byes till tomorrow, and Arkansas, of course, the second seed. Missouri comes to mind. Maybe Ole Miss comes to mind. Kentucky is looking from the outside in right now. How do you see this playing out? That last spot, or maybe 2 from the SEC, on what's considered a 6-team league by Lenardi and a lot of the experts?
Right. If you look at the tea leaves, I don't see how any of the 6 fall out. They all just seem to be pretty solidly in. The lowest I've seen any of them, I think, is a 9. And I don't think let's say an LSU or a Florida, and Florida has not played very well the last week or so, but I don't see how even Missouri or Florida can fall out of this. Missouri just has so many quad one wins that I don't think they can be denied. In fact, I feel like outside winning the SEC tournament, the only team that has a chance to play its way in is Ole Miss, because they're on the last four out or the next four out for some of these guys. And if they lodge a nice upset, maybe get to the championship game, they could play their way into the field. But otherwise, I think the SEC is pretty much cemented at 16.
Yeah. You look at Arkansas's fate, of course, everybody's trying to figure out what's the best path to maybe a 2 seed. Do they have to win this whole tournament on Sunday to be a 2? Are they solidly a 3 in your opinion? What does this weekend mean in Nashville for the Razorbacks?
I certainly think they could play their way into a 2. Now, I don't crunch the numbers like these guys who, I mean, that's their deal. But they've been pretty high on they were high on the 4 line and got down to the 3 line for Joe Lunardi at ESPN. I just don't know enough about the next 4 teams to think that, they could ascend to the 2 line. I mean, that's where Alabama is right now. And maybe if we see an Alabama-Arkansas final and the Razorbacks win that, they could get to the 2. It wouldn't shock me in the least. I mean, when you're this hot and everybody in the country knows it, that speaks volumes. And some of the other teams that are right there in with them, like the West Virginias, Ohio State, some of those teams have been losing lately.
Yep.
And I know Illinois is a very highly regarded team, but I think they have 6 or 7 losses. So I think the Razorbacks stand a decent shot if they make to the championship game to firmly solidify a 3 and possibly slide up a line.
We're talking all things Razorback sports with Tom Murphy this morning, as we do every Monday and Thursday around 7:20. Tom, we've yet to ask you a football question, so I'll take it there. Pro Day yesterday, Felipe, Xavier Kelly, Rakeem Boyd, Jerry Jacobs, and Jonathan Marshall. What was your biggest takeaway from Arkansas's Pro Day yesterday?
I'll tell you exactly what it was, and I wrote about it. I really was not looking forward to 50 minutes or an hour or whatever of Zoom time. It just kind of drones on.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, we have Jerry Jacobs flat out saying 1,000% wrong to opt out, and also Rakeem Boyd going into a little bit more detail about his decision, and turned out to be probably about the best pro day conversations I can remember with these guys. And of course, Felipe is just so gracious, and he has embraced Northwest Arkansas as it has embraced him. And just a good kid, and want to see him do well and make it onto an NFL roster. But Jerry Jacobs, to me, was kind of like the mother lode of quotes to say I should have listened to people. I think he was mad. I think he felt like his playing time had dropped off. It was somewhere in there around the Auburn game and maybe the next game, and I think he might have played at Florida, but they had just won the Ole Miss game, playing that zone defense, and he didn't play as much. And I think he had a small injury or something. But then he goes to the Florida game, and I don't think he plays. And then he's gone. Mm-hmm. He said Sam Pittman tried to talk to him about the reasons to stay, and I do believe later in the year he'd have got more run. I mean, think about the Missouri game. They really had trouble playing man defense in that game, and that kind of led to the rise of Ladarius Bishop, who I think could end up being a phenomenal starting corner for them. But they just could not handle Missouri on the edges in man defense. And a guy like Jerry Jacobs could have really helped them. I mean, Jarquez McClellan opted out early on, and his was a lot more strongly family COVID related.
Yeah.
And I get it. But Arkansas's cornerback position took a real shot. And I know Hudson Clark provided them some great play. I mean, the 3 picks against Ole Miss. But they could have been actually deep at corner, which is a position. And to me, this is the value and the gold of Barry Odom. They took guys who had not played very much or who were walk-ons or what have you, and made cornerback a relatively deep position when it had been a position of great need and thin depth. for several years running. And so I look for that to continue and for them to continue to find guys who can contribute at corner.
Tom, we appreciate the time as always, buddy. We'll recap the SEC tournament at 7:20 on Monday, man.
Man, I'm sorry for rambling on right there, but I got pretty
You're
worked
good,
up.
man.
So,
that's good stuff.
Tom,
talk to y'all next week, then.
See you, buddy.